Welcome back to the Wolves of Industry podcast. Got a great episode today with Jin to learn about his coaching, particularly with young kids that are perhaps shy, and his route into greater confidence. Welcome to the podcast. Do you want to start us off, and just for those people that haven't met you and come across you yet, like just give us a little bit of an intro into who you are.
Okay, so my name is Jin Atwal and I run a social enterprise in Wolverhampton called Magical Mind Coaching, and it helps young people develop their physical, mental and social well-being, all areas I struggled with and a lot of areas that young people are struggling with right now. So if you look at statistics, a lot of young people are struggling with their mental health, their social health and their physical health. So I think it's really important and it's really needed with a lot of young people right now.
We're going to come into how this came about, but before we do that, talk to me about the name of your enterprise. How did that come about, and what do you hope that it gets across to people?
For me, the name Magical Mind Coaching comes from that I believe that every single person's born with a magical mind, and that at some point in their life it gets taken away from them. So things don't go their way, or that they experience failure or get told that they can't do certain things, and they lose that ability. So a young person isn't born unhealthy. There isn't one born that they can't communicate. Babies communicate quite well actually, and they've got the right mindset. And it's these certain things that happen through their life, if you that kind of hold them back. So in terms of mindset, a child will a baby will fall over thousands of times, and they'll never think, oh, I'm not going to try again, and they'll keep getting up and trying to walk, and eventually they'll do it. And that kind of mindset that they have at that young age disappears at some point in their life, where they experience, I can't do this, and they'll stop. So Magical Mind Coaching is that we're all born with that magical mind, and my aim of my organisation is to help that child find that magical mind again.
I remember hearing once that when babies are born, they've basically got two fears. One of loud noises, and the other one is falling. Everything else then is kind of programmed into us. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, I'd agree. So a lot of that stuff will come through our experiences through life, and we'll go through a lot of things in life, and eventually we'll start losing some of that self-confidence, that self-belief. And we're not born that way. It happens as life goes by, and it needs a good coach to come along in your life, or a good role model that'll help you kind of overcome that and get back to finding that magical mind once again.
So, Jin, you've obviously been immensely confident your whole life then?
Not at all. So when I was younger, I really struggled to communicate with people. The school I used to attend, I didn't have any friends, and I went to secondary school as well, very much on myself. When I first started primary school, I had spoken a lot of Punjabi at home with my family and hadn't spoken much English. So going into a school, predominantly white children, and trying to communicate, I couldn't communicate with them at the beginning, even my teachers. And so I struggled right at the beginning. And to be honest, I struggled all the way through. I was very much an introvert, a very shy child, kept to myself. And that continued through primary school, secondary school, even into my adult life. I was still very much like that. And things changed for me when I joined the adult speaking club. I was 37 at that time, and I joined the public speaking club, and it changed my life. And I realised that public speaking is a skill. And up until then, I thought that it's a gift, it's a talent. You're either born with the gift of the gab or you're not. And it's not the case. Anybody can be an amazing communicator and speaker.
Well, what happened for you to go, do you know what? I'm shy. I've had this whole thing through school, and I've had no friends and all this kind of stuff. And then you suddenly go, but I'll go to this adult speaking club. Like, what happened there?
So for me, I lost my sister. So I've got an older sister and a younger sister, and my older sister got an autoimmune disease, and very quickly, within a few months, she passed away. And I thought to myself, I want to leave my sister's legacy behind. I want people to remember who she was. And one of my final conversations with her was an amazing conversation about life, and looking at life through the lens of death, and doing all the things you want to do now rather than waiting, because you never know what's going to happen in life. And I wanted to share that message and share how my sister's been my inspiration through all my life. But I didn't have the ability to do that because I couldn't communicate, I couldn't speak to people. So somebody told me about something called Toastmasters, which is an adult speaking club, and said, go along and practice. And I thought, that's not going to help, because I'm 37 years old and nothing's helped me so far. But I thought, I have to try because I want to try to leave my sister's legacy behind. So I joined, and I initially did a speech about my sister and our journey, and the speech actually, the talk that we had at the end, and it didn't connect with any of the audience. I didn't get my message across. I was looking to the ground, I was shivering, I was stuttering, and it just didn't go well at all. But I thought, I have to do this. And I kept on going week after week, and I kept on improving. I started to use a bit more body language, tone of voice, looking at the audience, knowing how to tell a story, how to connect with the audience. And eventually, a year later, they do an international speaking competition where you compete against your club. If you win at club level, then you go to area level, and you'll keep competing until you're at the stage where you're competing internationally against the whole of UK and Ireland. And I got to that stage, and I was doing this speech about my sister. And the day of the finals fell on what would have been my sister's 42nd birthday. And I did the speech to so many people and came second internationally. And I thought, wow, I've done this within 12 months, and it's a skill, and I'm going to try to do it again. And I entered the speaking competition the year later with a speech entitled, I wish I was a bit taller, which is about my height. Not the tallest of people, 5'5". So I did that speech, and it's amazing, all about differences and all of us having something that we don't like about ourselves and overcoming that. And I reached semi-finals again, getting quite far into competition. And then I did a TED talk. And then I did a theatre production, and my main role in a theatre production. And I thought, wow, this has changed my life. And I wish somebody had taught me this skill when I was 5-6 years old, because the amount of difference it would have made throughout my life would have been amazing. And that's where it really started to click for me. And I thought, this is what I need to do. This is my purpose in life. And this is what I need to do, and go and teach children this amazing skill.
Jin, you've done me. I'm engrossed in this story already. So you've obviously. Tell me, what was you saying to yourself? Like, how did you keep going? You turned up your first thing. You'd done your little speaking thing there, and am I right in thinking that's probably the worst, that was the lowest you could have been at that point? Like, what kept you going?
I was in a bad point. So when my sister was in a coma, her husband's sister actually left a book next to her, and it's called The Alchemist, an amazing book. I advise a lot of people to read it. I read it every single year, and it teaches me new lessons. But the book is about purpose, and it says, when you know your purpose, your legend, your life's legend, the universe will conspire to help you achieve that legend. And it stuck with me, and I thought, okay, what is my purpose in life? And while my sister was in a coma, I was reading this book to her. Not hoping that she'd wake up and come out of this coma and we'd do this and live our legend together. So going back, when I was a child, my dad was an alcoholic, and I witnessed a lot of domestic violence. And when I was younger, I got an older sister and a younger sister. As the only boy in the family, I thought it was my responsibility to protect my sisters and my mum. And not being able to do that as a 5-6-year-old boy, and going into a 14, 15-year-old boy, and still having that fear within you, really knocks your confidence. You feel like, I'm not a man. And boxing was the first thing that helped me actually begin to start to believe in myself. But going back, when I used to listen to this domestic violence, I used to sit on the step and in a house, and I used to say to myself over and over again, and kind of rocking and doing this kind of affirmation, one day when I get older, I'm going to help young people, make sure that they don't feel the way I do right now. I'm going to be a good husband, and I'm going to be a good father. And I'll keep saying that to myself over and over again. And I was just reading this book, The Alchemist, to my sister. I thought, that's my legend, that's my life's purpose, and that's what I should be doing. And then hoping my sister would come out of this coma, saying, we'll do this together. But she didn't. And then I went into a dark hole after she passed away for about 6 months. I was in a really bad position. And then I began to pick myself up, and I thought, okay, I don't want to become my dad. I don't want to become an alcoholic. I don't want to go down that route. I want to be a good person. And I remember that promise I made to myself. I'm going to go out there. I'm going to start helping young people. I don't know how. I've never worked with children before, but it's going to come to me. The universe will be behind me, and it will get me to where I need to get to. And that's when things started to come together. Public speaking came. I was working on my mindset. I remember myself boxing as a kid. And I thought, what of all these things that have helped me through life, I'm going to put it all together and create something that works for young people.
You hear all the time, don't you, of this loop starting. Your dad's an alcoholic or whatever, and then the people following that footstep, they become an alcoholic or abuser or whatever. What do you think your sister would think about you now if she could look in your life?
I think she'd be proud, and my sister never used to tell me she used to be proud of me, but she used to give me this look,
Right.
and a little smile. And I always think and imagine her every time I'm doing something that is following my purpose, by looking at me and giving me that smile, and it stays in my mind. And I think she'd be really proud of me, and I hope she would be really proud of me. And people often say everything happens for a reason, and I don't really like that saying in many ways, because it makes me think that my sister had to pass away for me to do what I'm doing right now. It's not the case. Things happen in your life, like my dad was an alcoholic, my sister passed away, but things happen. But it's up to you to use those things to create something that is good. So it's all energy. That negative energy can be used, or that energy can be used to do something bad, like become an alcoholic yourself, or you can use that energy to do something positive in the world. And often your pain is your purpose, I believe, and that pain that I've gone through is now my purpose. And they say healed people heal people, and by me healing myself by helping others, they're actually helping me. So these young people that I teach, often people say, "Oh, you're doing amazing things for these young people," and really they're healing me at the same time, and making me a better person. So it's an amazing journey, and to see these children growing confidence is amazing.
I've heard a variation of that quote before. I've never heard the way you put it there, and actually it's a beautiful quote that you've just said. So I've heard hurt people hurt people. I've never heard the inverse of that, the healed people heals people, and I think that's incredible. I'll steal that in the future if you don't mind. Listen, talk to me about these sessions with these kids. Like, how does the session run, and then we'll kind of loop back at how you created it all and all that.
Okay, so the sessions are split up into 3 sections. So it's an hour and a half class. It's ongoing. So the first half an hour is something that's really fun. Let's get some there. So it's a team game. So we'll play dodgeball, or we'll play handball, or whatever they like. I'll ask them what is a game or a team game that you really like. So they'll play that, and while they're playing that, I'm giving them that little bits of coaching here and there. If they're getting upset because they failed, teaching about failure and overcoming failure and learning from mistakes. If they begin to argue with each other, teaching about communicating and working together. If one team's celebrating and really showing off in the team's face when they've won, it's about being humble, and then teaching them different skills at the same time, just dropping these little messages in for them. Then once we've done that, we'll go into boxing, very much like you're going from team sports to individual, and really getting to be disciplined and focused and resilient, and all the loads of lessons from that again. And then once I've done that, a lot of anxieties come out of their body, they kind of feel relaxed. And then you say, okay, we're going to go into this public speaking thing. that they're like, well, I don't want to do that. But they'll come and do that and say, okay, we're going to do it as a game. And team A against team B, kids like to compete. And we're going to break the skill down of public speaking initially. So what is public speaking? It's your body language, it's your tone of voice, and it's the words that you speak. And that's as simply as it is. And when you tie these things together and they match perfectly, that's when you become an amazing public speaker. So we'll work on body language first. And the best game for body language, charades. So we'll play charades, and they'll compete against each other in a game of charades. Then we'll, after a few weeks, say, let's start working on our tone of voice. We can't speak monotone. We need to use our voice as a tool. These are tools. Let's use them. So I might say, okay, I want you to say that it's snowing outside. But for you, you're getting a day off school, you're happy, you're over the moon, you look out the window, it's snowing outside, school's cancelled, you'll be like, oh, it's snowing outside. Whereas, imagine me, I'm an event organiser, I've been organising an event for weeks, the food, the caterers, the speakers, everything's been organised, but my event's been cancelled. I'm going to wake up in the morning and go, it's snowing outside, because I'm not happy about it. And it's just changing that tone of voice and getting to use that skill. And then we go into words, and words is all about structuring how you're going to say what you say, storytelling, connecting with the audience, and it's about getting rid of some of those ums and ers and filler words. So we play games around that, and using metaphors, similes, and various things to explain things in detail and make that a bit easier to understand. And we tie it all together, and how we structure it is having that hook at the beginning to get people's attention, the rule of 3 in the middle, so 3 key points, no more than that, and then a call to action at the end. And then they'll start doing that, and we do impromptu speaking as well. So I'll get them to say, I'm going to ask you a question, and you've got the time from when you're sitting down to come to the front to think of your response. So I make it easy at the beginning. So tell me about a superpower that you might have, and they'll come up and they'll talk about a superpower. But then as it goes along, I might say, tell me about a time where you failed and how you overcame that failure. So they'll keep developing the skill, and that's going to help them with communication skills and various other things. The interviews, they might get asked similar questions when they get older. So the confidence slowly growing, but it's all working together. The team game, the boxing, everything's getting them in the right mindset. And once I feel they're ready, then I'll do an annual speaking competition where they've gone from just speaking inside their class in front of about 5 or 10 or 15 young people in the class, to then going on stage to all their family and friends. So the last event was at Technical College in July, and we had 70 people in the audience. So the youngest speaker was 7 and the oldest was 14, and they came on and spoke a 3-minute speech on something that inspires them. So I always go, the topic that you choose must be something that you are passionate about. And every single speech, there's 20 speakers, was on a different topic. So some talked about football, some talked about plastic pollution. One boy talked about his asthma and how it feels to be have asthma, and everything was a total different range of different subjects, and they all did it. They all delivered. One boy stopped halfway through, but then he continued, and just to see him stand up there and fight through that and continue is an amazing experience in itself.
I'm just trying to get a gauge for where some of these kids are at the start and where they finish up. Have you got some example? Obviously, I don't expect names and stuff like that, but examples of real success stories through this.
Yeah, so a lot of my classes are, I'm a social enterprise, so the whole idea is to help young people that need the support the most. So I will base my classes in some of the most deprived areas of Wolverhampton in their community centres, so the kids can walk there. So, for example, it'd be Low Hill Community Centre or Gattis Community Centre space. So it's areas that young people can just walk to. So a lot of the young people that come to me are the ones that really just struggle with communicating it and getting their words out sometimes. And a lot of people, young children, are not like that, I've noticed, and it seems to be getting worse over time because of things like technology. So some of the kids will come, and when they first start, they will find it hard to just say 1 or 2 words in front of a group of people. And eventually, like say for the impromptu speaking, and I say, can you speak for 30 seconds? What manages that, they'll do like 5 or 10 seconds, and then they'll sit down, and then it's getting them confident again and getting them believing themselves and saying it's okay. And every class, I'll always say to every single child, and I'll keep saying this over and over again, that when you come to my class, it's a place of non-judgment. And if I see any child judging another child and you keep doing it, you'll be out of the class. Because we live in a world where people judge people, put each other down, and that's why we have a fear of public speaking in the first place. So this class is not about that. If you all support each other, you're all together, you're all going to bring each other up together. So it's getting them into that mentality. So when a child does come up and speak, they know that everybody's got their back in that room, and then that's going to help them grow in confidence. And that's it. That's the journey they'll go on. And 6 months, 12 months, they'll get from there to going on stage and speaking.
Describe some of the reactions of the parents.
Yeah, the parents are kind of in shock in many cases. They'll know their kids are coming to my class, and they'll see them probably practicing. But when they're in the audience on that day, when their child's standing up in front and speaking, they're in tears and everything. They just cannot believe that their child is standing on that stage and speaking to a large group of people. And even the children themselves, it's not until that day, you'll see their confidence and everything grow for that time, but that day afterwards they've spoken on stage, they're like totally different people. They're like so much more confident, they believe in themselves, and it's that point where they'll say, you know what, I like this public speaking thing. Can I do it again? When's the next competition? And before that, they'd never say anything like that. I was speaking to one girl today, and I said, can you remember when you first joined? And she goes, yeah. You know when I asked you about public speaking, and you said you didn't want to do it? And she goes, yeah, I remember that. God, do you remember after the speaking competition what you said to me? And she goes, yeah, I remember saying I love it and I can't wait. And her mum said to me, she said she's found a new passion. She never had this passion. She never understood the passion of public speaking. Now she believes she wants to become the next amazing public speaker. So, and she will be. And she's amazing.
It's incredible when you think that, again, I heard a stat where people fear, I think they did a study in America, and people fear public speaking more than death itself.
Yeah, true.
So, to combat that fear at such young age, you are literally opening up these children's lives, aren't you, to so much more.
Yeah, it's exactly what I say to them. I say that in the UK as well, they did a study as well, and 80% of adults said they had a fear of public speaking. or even socialising, in social environments, and that was before death and everything else. Funnily, number 10 is the fear of clowns.
Really?
Yeah, so there's a big. There's needles, there's heights, there's injections, there's snakes. But you imagine public speaking becomes above all that because it's that fear of being judged. And I always tell the children when they join my class, this is a superpower. So you think about all your superheroes, Superman, Batman, they've all got superpowers. But this is a real life superpower because if you learn the art of public speaking, you're going to shine. Because if 80% of people fear that and you're the 20% that don't, you're going to be above all those. When you're standing in interviews, when you're in group meetings, team meetings, networking, building your brand, that's more important in life these days, and creating that brand, social media presence. You can have all those skills. Young people say, what do you want to do when you get older? And I want to be an influencer. And you think, okay, but what does it take to be an influencer? Do you think these influencers are not great at public speaking? They're amazing. And that's a skill that if you want to go down that route, you're going to need that skill. And like I say, it'll change your life, even like relationships and friendships. And even learning public speaking myself, my relationship with my wife improved because I was able to get my point across and I was listening a lot better as well. There's times where my wife used to say to me, Gene, I can't understand what you're saying. Before I did public speaking, you're mumbling, you're not clear in what you're saying at all. And I used to get frustrated, or I would have a point, but because my wife was able to get her point across better than me, she'd always win an argument, and I've now got a point here, but I just can't get it across. And then that would come out as frustration. And everybody knows as soon as you become frustrated in a disagreement, you lose the battle. You've lost. You've gotten angry and you've got frustrated. Whereas if you can keep you calm and get your point across in an eloquent way, then you've got a better way of a stronger chance of getting your point across to that person as well, and you'll feel better for it. So it helps in so many different ways, and people don't realise that. They think public speaking, and it's a big challenge for me still, trying to get kids into my class. Yes, they'll come for the boxing and everything else, but when I talk about public speaking, the parents don't understand the value, the children don't understand the value at the beginning because they just think it's somebody that wants to go and stand on stage. They don't realise it's going to help with their friendships, it's going to help with their relationships when they get older, interviews and every single part of their life. This is going to help. I think it's the most important life skill out there, and it's not taught. You won't find it in schools, and you won't find it on the curriculum, embedded in the curriculum properly. In some countries like the US, it's part of it, and you can see a lot of people in the US that have this confidence because they learn public speaking in schools, and it's taught a lot. But in the UK, I don't see that as much.
So I'm just interested into, like, I don't think many kids will be watching this, right? Maybe, but I don't think there'll be many. So parents will be watching it. How do these kids end up in your workshops and your sessions?
So I do a lot of social media promoting, but a lot of it's also parents eventually when they do see the benefit and they see their child on stage, and I record everything, so them speaking on stage, parents will see my social media and see these children speaking on stage, then they begin to say, okay, I can see the value in this, and the parents begin to see the value in it, and then they go and speak to other parents. Word of mouth is so important. I think that's probably been the biggest growth of my organisation. Children that have come and their parents go and speak to other parents and bring in another friend or another person along as well. But I do a lot, like I say, I do a lot of social media stuff, and I'd really then try to give people an insight into what happens inside my class and all the different elements, and I'll keep explaining the different sections, how they work, the importance of public speaking, to trying to get that message across to as many people as I can, that it is important and it's not just for standing on stage. So I want to take you back, if I can, to just before going on stage for the TED Talk. Yeah.
And I'm just wondering, what is kind of going on in your head, and how did you get through that? Because, I mean, let's set some context around this. Like, TED Talk is probably the pinnacle of any public speaker's, the potential. Once you've got a TED Talk under your belt and all that, it's huge, isn't it? So how was you feeling?
Yeah, it's massive actually, because I joined Toastmasters, and a few months into Toastmasters, maybe about 6 or 7 months, it was a time when we went into lockdown, and for a while I was doing a lot of my public speaking training online. So you'd join on a Zoom call and you'd practice your skills, but it's never the same as doing it in person. Yeah. And I seen the application as we came out of lockdown and things began to open up. I seen an application for a TED Talk, and I thought, you always just need to apply, and that's you learning a lesson on how to get an application form in for these things and how you can improve it next time. But I'm not going to get chosen this time, and I did. So I got chosen, and they said, "Are you doing this TED Talk? And there's going to be 150 people at this event that you have to go and speak to." And I I've never done this. I've done it online, but I've not spoken in front of 150 people. So I just went away and I just practiced. And I was on holiday. We went to Croatia and I was sitting there and I was on the sunbed and that's all I did. Practice. And next swimming pool, practiced. And I was trying to kind of recall on my speech. My daughter was probably about 10 years old at the time. And she's got like a photographic memory. And she knew my speech better than me before I did. She'd read it back to me. And I was like, yeah. But it took me a while and I got it and I memorised it all. And the day came and I was the only person that turned up at the beginning when the room was empty, and I put my headphones on, listened to music, and I just did my speech to an empty auditorium and visualised it. I visualised that audience being there, what it's going to be like, and the event organisers mentioned it afterwards. They go, "You're the only person that did that," and you can understand why you've done that because it helped me visualise everything. And then backstage, I was there. I ended up being the first speaker of the event as well. So they said you're going to be the first speaker, which is good in some ways because you get it over and done with, but at the same time, it's a lot of pressure. So I stood behind the curtain and I was taught a tool. I read about a tool that's helped me through a lot through life, and it's called the 5-second rule. It's from a book that I read, and this book has been a big inspiration for me. It's one of the reasons I had the
Angela
conversation.
Duckworth, is it that wrote that?
I forgot her name. It's a lady now. I
think it is 5 seconds. Yeah,
it's 5-second rule, and the concept behind it is the lady that wrote the book. She was very depressed. She was lying down in a bed, an American lady, and she couldn't get out of bed. So depressed that she just couldn't even get herself out of bed. And in the background, she heard a rocket launch. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and that made her just get up out of bed. And then she started to apply that rule on everything. So every time she wanted to do something that was a bit out of her comfort zone, she'd apply that. And she wrote a whole book on it and sold millions of copies around the world just on this simple concept. And it works because you have 5 seconds to decide whether to fight, flight or freeze. If you count backwards and take one step forward or put your hand up or say yes, you've committed. So your body's saying, I'm going into fight mode. And I'm not going to run and I'm not going to freeze. And just by doing that, you begin to go into that fight mode. So I was behind the curtain. I said, Jin's coming on, and I went 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and just took that step and walked onto stage. And it's helped me in so many different things. And I started the speech off. If anybody's got a chance to listen to it, it's called Waking Up From Your Wake Up Call. And it is all about lockdown and the importance of physical, mental, and social well-being. So I actually start the speech off with a voice of where I'm renouncing lockdown for the very first time and getting people to visualize that when they first heard that voice of all this going lockdown. And then about how all the things that people said to themselves during lockdown, they said, oh, I'm going to communicate with my neighbours a bit more now. I'm going to be a bit more healthy. I'm going to work on my mindset a bit more. And all these things that people said to themselves during lockdown, as we came out of lockdown, everybody kind of fell into their own ways again. And it's really about the importance of how, if you work on those 3 areas, I believe you can do anything. And the concept is, I think life comes down to opportunity. And I believe that it's your ability to take hold of the opportunities that are going to make, decide how successful you are in anything. That might be success in terms of monetary value, or it might be relationships or whatever else is. It all comes down to opportunity. And if you do not believe in yourself, you won't see any opportunities. And it's that red car game, for example. And people say, spot the red car, and you'll start seeing red cars everywhere. But before that, you didn't see any. It's the same with opportunity. If you believe that there are opportunities in this world, we do live in a world in abundance, then you'll be able to begin to see them. If you're kind of that person that there are no opportunities for me, there's nothing out there, life's too hard, you're not going to see them. They're going to be invisible. When you believe that there are opportunities, you begin to see them, and that's having the right mindset. But then you've got to believe in yourself. You've got to believe that you're worthy of those opportunities. Again, mindset. Then you say, okay, there's the opportunity. Grasp hold of it. I'm going to do something with it. However, some people stop there because they won't take any action. And sport is amazing. Sport's the best way to teach somebody to take action, how to become more resilient, how to become dedicated, how to overcome failure. Because all these are things that are going to happen when you take an opportunity to try and do something with it. You're going to fail. You're going to come across obstacles. But sport, on the background of sport and what it teaches you in a fun way, is to help you overcome all these things. So you got the opportunity. You know how to do something with it through sport. And then you'll only go so far alone, but you'll go so far with others. If you haven't got the social skills to communicate to people, and the ultimate goal is to get them to be your followers. If they follow you and believe in you so much and your passion as much as you do, then you've got 2 people helping you, 3 people, 4 people. You've got community helping you, and they're all behind you trying to push your vision along. And that's when you take something that's a beginning that started off small as an opportunity to making it something massive. And I think that's what it all comes down to. And that's why I've got those elements with my course, like mentally, physically, socially, put them together. You might have to be the most intelligent person in the world. I wasn't the most intelligent person in the world. I failed most of my GCSEs. I've always struggled, and I'm doing something with. I've created this organisation, things I never thought was possible because I've got those skills. And you do see some of the people that have great communication skills, and those are people that work in offices. We'll see this all the time, where you're sitting in a board meeting, and you've got the person that might not be the most intelligent, the one that doesn't come up with the best ideas, but he's an amazing speaker. He will stand up in meetings and show the manager that all these things that you might have stolen your ideas or heard other things, but you'll be able to communicate it excellent. You get a promotion, and they'll move on along in the company. But that person that's shy or quiet, that's got great ideas, that just sits there and just looks around, is too scared to give their point because they're a bit worried, they'll stay where they are. And that's the power of communication and self-belief. If you have all those skills, you can do anything. I really truly believe you can.
Yeah, no, I agree. Have you always nailed it, Jin? Have you always got it right?
Not at all. So I've made, even with this organisation, Magical Mind Coaching, I've made so many mistakes along the way. When I first set up, after we come out of lockdown, because I initially started off doing in-person classes at my daughter's school. That's how I started off. I spoke to the head teacher, can I come in and can I do something called Magical Mornings? So I'd read a book called The Magical Morning, which is all about having this routine every morning, about doing an affirmation, do some exercise, having some kind of routine every morning that starts you off for a perfect day. So I was doing that in the school in December before lockdown. So I think December 2019, and I think we went into lockdown in March 2020, if I can remember. So I was only doing it for a short while, and then it all came to an end. And at that point, I could have thought, oh, that's it. It's not going to work. But I went online, and I was doing something called the Magical Mind online, and people are joining from America and all around this world. I was doing like a Facebook Live every morning at 9 o'clock, and all these families are joining during lockdown and doing this. My own daughters used to come down and do this with me as well. And we did it for about 12 or 13 weeks. Every single morning, we'd get up and do this routine, and people would join. And as we came out of lockdown, I'd also been doing the public speaking. I thought the public speaking is the thing that I really want to push. And so I created my social enterprise, and my first class was called Magical Speaking. I got 20 children signed up. It was a free class. And on the day, I probably had 2 or 3 children turn up at the 20. And I thought, what have I done wrong? I'm offering something for free. It's great value, but nobody's turned up. The parents have signed their children up, and they haven't come, and I'm offering it for free. That is a sign that people don't believe in me, or that I'm not good enough. But it wasn't that. When I thought I need to go back and speak to the parents and find out what's happened. And it completely made sense, because when I spoke to the parents, I said, look, our child is scared of speaking. They've got anxiety. We can see the value of them going to this class because it'll help them. But can you imagine on the morning us speaking to them and saying, you're going to this magical speaking course? They was terrified. They said, no, I am not going to that. And they refused, and there was no way we could have got them there. So I thought, okay, I need to change this model. I need to do something differently. And that's when I came with the boxing. And I thought, I'm going to bring the boxing in. I'd been reading a lot of books around mindset anyway, and things like limiting beliefs, and that helped me. So I thought I need to bring that in. And the public speaking was there at the end. So it kind of tied in together nicely. And again, I made a few mistakes with that at the beginning. I was doing the boxing, and then in terms of the mindset part, which I do through team games now, was me getting some slides. So I had a whole slide deck. The children would sit down, and I would say, today I'm going to talk about limiting beliefs, and today I'm going to talk about failure. And the children would sit there and begin to start falling asleep and get bored. They've been to school all day. They don't want somebody standing in front of them, lecturing them about and talking to them, and them just listening. So that's when I decided to get rid of all that and say, okay, it's going to be blended in, just the conversations. And sometimes you might do a talking circle, but it's those little conversations that you have with kids that are more important, and they can see it in action. They failed, they're upset. Now I could say, have that conversation with them and say, we're going to fail, we're going to make mistakes. Most people make mistakes, but you're only going to fail if you stop. Yeah, if you carry on and learn from these, it's not a failure, it's just another lesson. And you keep dropping these in, and that works better. And then at the public speaking, at the beginning, I was very much, come on, stand in front and talk. Whereas I thought, I'm terrifying these kids, they've never spoke before, so let's play games, let's play charades, let's play these games and do it in a fun way. So everything's gamified now, and it's more fun from kids. Love gaming, so if you can bring gaming into it. So we've got the 3 sections, and I'll set them into 2 teams, and they're competing. So they're competing in the team game. they'll compete in boxing, and they'll compete in the public speaking game, and then we'll decide who's the winner at the end. And they love that, and because it's all fun and engaging, it works for them. And so it's just learning. And right at the beginning, I used to get frustrated a lot. I've been doing this for about 5 years now, and right at the beginning, I said, "This is too slow. I'm not moving fast enough. I'm not. It needs to go faster." And eventually, I realised the word patience came into mind, and it kept coming over and over. Got patience. And now, when I look back at it, I thought, what if right at the beginning, loads of schools or all my classes are full. I was offering that service, that product that I was doing then. It would never have been as good as it is now. I needed to go through that process. And now when my classes are filling up now, it's a great product and it's service from all those lessons I've learned. It's the right thing. And now that it does grow, the word's getting out there because children are loving it and they're enjoying it. And that's how it'll spread. So sometimes you just have to be a bit patient in life, I think.
I always remember a quote, and it's like the elevator to success is out of order, but the stairs are always open. You know what I mean? And it's that, isn't it? Yeah. It's like I've got to go through all these steps. As much as I want to go really fast and just get this going, actually, there's a lot of learning to do. We've had similar thing with the studio and putting podcasts together. You've got to learn those things, haven't you, to be able to provide some of value. What's coming up in the future, Jin? Like what are you excited for in the future? So
for me, it's getting the kids out there. So, they're speaking in my classes, they're speaking on stage, but let's get them out to events. Let's go and get them to do podcasts. Let them go to maybe the BBC studio or whatever it is. Go and speak, go to events. And it is beginning to come true in some sense. So, there was a girl that spoke at one of my speaking events, and there was somebody in the audience that knows a lady, Julia Farrell, who works for Fair Trade Wolverhampton. And it was their 21st anniversary, or I think it's the 21st anniversary of Fair Trade as a whole. And the girl did a speech at the event on child poverty and how it relates to fair trade. And somebody in the audience spotted her and said, "Look, I know that lady. She's in the 21st anniversary is coming up soon. She'll be a perfect speaker for that day. Can you get her along?" And obviously I spoke to the girl and she was really scared and nervous. Could go from now, it's another level. She's going to an event that the mayor of Wolverhampton is going to be there, or the councillor is going to be there, and she has to speak in front of all of those. And she agreed, and she went there, and on the day she was the final speaker. So they did all the other stuff and they brought her on at the end. And she did this 3-minute speech on fair trade and child poverty and child labour, and it was amazing. She made no mistakes and she's so clear. And the mayor of Wolverhampton actually said at the end, she goes, "Wow," she goes, you speak better than most politicians." And she goes, "You're amazing." And she was truly amazing. And her herself, her confidence has gone even greater after doing that event. And that's it. Imagine she's 12 years old. At 12 years old, she can say, I spoke in front of the mayor at an event when she's older. And then I'm sure there's going to be loads of more events. So I want to get these children's voices heard in different places. And when it comes from a child, and I think it's so more powerful. The things that happen in this world, I could speak about them, but then if a child speaks about them and how it's impacting them, they are the future. It's going to touch you a lot more, and it's going to be a bit more powerful. And sometimes children get a bad reputation, and they are so powerful, and they're in touch with what's going on around them so much more than we will ever be. And if you can get them to talk about it and how it's impacting them, that's how real change happens.
So, Jin, how can people either get their kids involved in your sessions or get some coaching from you themselves?
So my classes run across Wolverhampton, like I said. So on Tuesdays, I'm at Low Hill Community Centre, 5 till 6:30. Wednesdays at the Bob Jones Community Centre, 5 till 6:30. And then Thursdays, I'm at the Gattis Community Centre. On Friday mornings, I also do a home ed group, so any children at home educated, which is an increasing number of children in Wolverhampton. Then come to my Friday class at Low Hill, which is 10:30 till 12. So I've got all my classes running in multiple different places. I also do some children and parents want one-to-one coaching with their children. So before they can even get into my class, I do one-to-one coaching. And I also do adult public speaking coaching as well. And something separately that I'm working with, I've recently created a Toastmasters club in Wolverhampton. So the local one was currently Warsaw. So now we have a Toastmasters Wolverhampton as well, so people can come along and practice their public speaking skills there too.
So is there websites for all these things? Is there social media profiles and that?
Yeah, so the best way to find me, I always say, is just go into Google and type Magical Mind Coaching, and then I'm on LinkedIn, TikTok, Instagram and Facebook. So you'll find me on one of those platforms, whatever you prefer. and you'll see all the videos of the classes and the things that we do. Kids can come to my classes for free as a trial, and the way I've done it is it's like a sliding scale now. So for parents, families that can afford to pay, they pay. Those that can't afford to pay, the children attend for free, because I want it available for everybody to be able to attend my classes, because I think that public speaking should be available for everybody. And you look at some other programs like drama clubs or public speaking clubs, it's more available for families that can afford it, or families that may have done the public speaking themselves, that'll understand it. But sometimes those that can't afford it don't get access to these programs, and I do really want to make it available for everybody. And in schools as well, I really find it hard to even have a conversation with schools and tell them the importance of public speaking, because they'll say, yes, we do it. And I say, okay, can you explain how you teach public speaking in schools? And they'll go, oh, we get them to stand up in front and read a book, or read a book in front of the class. That's not public speaking skills. Public speaking skills is so much more than that, and you can't expect a child just to stand up and read a book. It's like saying, "Oh, go and drive a car with no driving lessons." It's going to set the fear, and it could have an accident, or something's going to go wrong, and that's going to stick with them forever. You need to help them understand. Like, I will go back to the basics and help children understand why we have this fear of public speaking in the first place. If they understand why they have it and what's happening to the body, then they know, oh yeah, these are solutions. The reason we have this fear in the first place is because of that fear of being judged. And it goes to tribal days, when we was all in tribes. If you said the wrong thing or fell out your tribe, you had to fend for yourself. And that has always stuck with us. And people are so judgmental, and it's getting worse, that people are afraid to say things these days and talk and communicate. And gaming and technology, it's all having an impact on people's communication skills. And loneliness used to be a thing that used to think that elderly used to have. I know elderly used to suffer with loneliness. But the statistics out there now is more and more young people are suffering with loneliness and feeling lonely, and that is because they're just not communicating and talking to each other as much. And social media, devices, gaming, all these things are just making things worse.
If you could put out a call to arms now, right? So everybody that's listening to this or whatever, you know what I mean? You had one thing that you try to encourage people to do to finish off. What would you say?
If I was any parent or any school out there, I would say that public speaking should be one of the most important things you teach a child. It's going to change everything for them. As in terms of education, they're going to raise a hand in class more. They're going to participate. They're going to learn more. In terms of them growing older, it's going to help with relationships. It's going to help them maybe in interviews and if working for themselves, creating businesses, creating organisations. But it's also at a level even in terms of falling into gangs or having an argument with somebody and that ends up in a fight. What if you can communicate clearly? I always say it affects everything. So if you're walking around with your head down past a group of guys or girls and they look at you, they'll say unconfident, and you're more susceptible to them then kind of maybe abusing you or doing so. If you're walking around with your shoulders back a bit more, looking confident, sometimes that's less likely to happen. If you come across a lot more confident, get your point across, it helps in so many different areas. So I personally think that public speaking is the most important skill out there, and every child should have an opportunity to develop this skill, and it will, I promise you, will change their lives. It changed my life. I can see it changing all the children's lives in my classes, and I think it should be part of the curriculum. So definitely should be part of the curriculum and properly embedded. And not all teachers are trained themselves in public speaking. So even bringing somebody in externally or getting teachers trained in how to train public speaking is a priority. It's done in other countries. I don't know why it's not done in the UK as much, and it should be. And it is really life changing.
Well, it's hard to sort of sit here and imagine you being shy and retiring at some point in your life, but you clearly were. But it's also really heartwarming that you're doing this work with these kids. I completely understand, the value that this would bring, and I've personally loved hearing from you today. And I'd love to have you back on at some point, to talk more about the public speaking, like what makes a good story, what techniques you've got, and I'm sure people listening to this would take a lot from that as well. So thanks, Jin.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.